You know those moments in movies where you feel like you've been punched in the brain because everything you thought you knew was wrong? Yeah, that's exactly what's about to happen. So here's my warning. If your brain doesn't split into 4 different timelines by the end of this, I've failed. Now remember in Endgame when Tony went back to 1970, met his dad, and Howard casually dropped the bomb that his wife Tony's mom was pregnant. Tony froze, not the casual. Oh, that's cute. My mom's pregnant, kind of frozen. No, it was the, I just realized the universe isn't lining up with my math. Kind of frozen because, by his calculations, he should have already been born. But he wasn't. You probably brushed past that scene thinking, oh, Tony's just emotional seeing his dad. No, that look wasn't nostalgia. It was confusion, almost fear, because something was off. Something massive now. Roll back even further to Iron Man 2. Remember when Howard told Tony, my greatest creation is you? Cute line, right? Warm and fatherly. Yeah, but think about the word creation. That's not the same as my greatest achievement or my greatest gift. Creation implies something made, not born. And what if Howard meant it literally? What if the Tony Stark we've been cheering for all these years wasn't Howard's biological son? At all, I'm about to tell you. Marvel's greatest magic trick for the last 15 years. They've been showing us a man we thought was Tony Stark, but was actually Victor Von Doom. Yes, Dr. Doom has been standing in front of us the entire time, and we didn't recognize him. And here's the wild part, it's not even some fan-made stretch theory with 1 or 2 connections. The evidence is everywhere hidden in plain sight, and when you connect the dots, it's impossible to unsee. So let's roll this back to something. Most people don't know in 2005, long before our DJ ever put on the Iron Man armor, he auditioned for Victor Von Doom in Fantastic Four. Yeah, Doom, he didn't get the role, but fate fates, patient, and almost 2 decades later, Marvel is actually making him Doom now. You might think, okay, so they just like the casting symmetry. No, this idea of Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom has been bouncing inside Marvel Studios for 20 years. Kevin Feige knew, the high-up executives knew, this wasn't a last minute, oh fans, love our DJ, let's bring him back thing. And here's where it gets insane. Recently, the Russo brothers admitted that they weren't planning to return for Secret Wars. They just couldn't find the perfect entry point. They wanted something so explosive that it would be worth coming back for. And then they heard an idea involving our DJ. An idea so big it made them drop everything, call Feige, and start prepping. The same idea kicked Kang out of the spotlight, brought Doom to the center stage, and secured our DJ a $100 million paycheck. So what was it? Okay, first, here's the truth about Doom in this theory, the real Doom. He's not just a one-dimensional villain. Like some people think, this Doom has every reason in the world to hate Kang, specifically He Who Remains, because before the events we saw in Loki, there was the multiversal war, countless timelines clashed, and in one of those timelines, Doom ruled. That was his world. He fought Kang and lost when He Who Remains finally ended the multiversal war. He destroyed every other timeline, including Doom's gone. Erased, but Kang didn't just wipe Doom's world. Oh no, he decided to rewrite Doom's life in the new sacred timeline. Kang arranged for Doom to be adopted by Howard and Maria Stark. He grew up not as a tyrant, but as a hero. He lived his life believing he was Tony Stark, genius billionaire, playboy philanthropist, never knowing that deep down he was Victor Von Doom. And suddenly all those weird little moments across the MCU make sense, that off-looking in-game Howard calling him his creation, the speed at which Tony invented time travel in Endgame, something even Bruce Banner found impossible. Because here's the thing, in the comics, Doom is a master of time travel, always has been. It's his signature expertise. So of course, when Tony sat down to figure it out, it didn't take him years. It took him one night because that knowledge was already in him. Now here's where this flips the entire MCU on its head. People complained that Doom has no buildup in the MCU, that unlike Thanos, we've never even heard his name. But if Doom has been hiding as Tony Stark for 20 years, that's the biggest buildup in movie history. Thanos got 6 years of post-credit teases. Doom's been here since 2008, and the twist doesn't just serve as shock value, it justifies Doom's future actions. Think about it. Kang took his life, his identity, his destiny, and forced him to play the role of a hero. Doom didn't choose heroism. It was programmed into his reality. He lost his throne, his power, his memory. So when he finally learns the truth, he's not just coming for Kang, he's coming for everyone who played along. That's where the evil Avengers come in. Imagine Doom, our DJ's Doom, turning the entire hero roster against the world. Not because he's pure evil, but because he's flipping Kang's move back on the heroes. Kang turned a villain into a hero. Doom turns the heroes into villains, perfect revenge. And now those weird gaps in the MCU timeline make sense to ever wonder why the MCU started with Iron Man instead of Marvel's bigger names, like Spider-Man or the X-Men. It wasn't just a business decision, though. Yes, in the 90s, Marvel was broke and had sold off those rights. But in story, that's exactly how Kang designed the sacred timeline. He erased the X-Men entirely. Spider-Man didn't appear until much later. Venom doesn't exist here, and Doom. Well, he became the poster boy of the MCU under the name Tony Stark. So when Secret Wars hits, this soft reboot isn't just a studio reshuffling. It's the restoration of the original Marvel Universe. The one Kang destroyed the universe where the X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Venom and Iron Man all coexisted naturally, and when the reboot happens, the real Tony Stark can finally appear. Likely from another universe, possibly played by Tom Cruise. But here's the challenge. The Russo brothers warned about telling fans that the man they've adored for 20 years wasn't who they thought. The crowd will be split between those who learned the theory beforehand and the masses walking in blind. Imagine the reaction when it's revealed on screen, the entire theater gasping, some refusing to believe it. And that's exactly why this works. It's not just a twist for shock's sake, it recontextualizes everything. Every sacrifice Tony made, every choice, every moment we thought belonged to him, all came from Doom, wearing a Stark-shaped mask. And here's the beauty, those moments still count. Doom lived them. They're real experiences, real emotions. That's why the ending of Endgame still hits hard. He still chose to sacrifice himself despite knowing nothing about his true self. That choice is what makes him dangerous now, because it proves Doom can be both the ultimate hero and the ultimate villain. The MCU's biggest twist won't just change the future, it'll rewrite the past. So let's take a step back and think about what it means if Tony Stark was really Victor Von Doom this whole time. First off, Kang didn't just erase a man's past. He rewrote history, entire decades of events, friendships, rivalries, and battles, all of it rearranged so that Doom would never even know what was stolen from him. It's the ultimate humiliation for someone like Victor Von Doom. You've got to understand, Doom isn't just any villain. He's not the "I want to blow up the city" type. Doom's ego is the size of the multiverse. He's a ruler, a genius, a sorcerer, a scientist, someone who believes he's destined to lead. Now imagine taking that man and making him live as someone else, entirely making him kneel to the idea of heroism under another name. That's worse than death for Doom, and that's why when this reveal finally happens, it's not going to be some small twist. We can shrug off, it'll hit like a supernova, because the second Doom learns the truth, the rules change. Here's where it gets chilling. Think about Tony Stark's entire arc from selfish billionaire to self-sacrificing hero. It's the gold standard of MCU character development. But if that arc belongs to Doom, then that means Doom is capable of every act of heroism Tony ever displayed. And if a man like Doom can willingly lay his life down for the universe once, what do you think he'll do when he decides the universe doesn't deserve to exist in its current form? Yeah, not good. Now, let's talk about the why. Why would Kang even bother turning Doom into Tony? Why not just erase him entirely? The answer is, control. Kang knew Doom was too dangerous to leave running around in the multiverse. Even if you destroy his timeline, a man like Doom finds a way back. Erasing him doesn't solve the problem. It just creates a vacuum. But by repurposing Doom, Kang not only neutralizes a threat he gets to use. Doom's genius in the service of maintaining the sacred timeline? It's the perfect leash. Doom becomes a hero, helps save the world, repeatedly even protects the very timeline that stole his throne, all without realizing he's serving the enemy. And this is where you start to realize Kang is just as terrifying as Doom, because this plan didn't just target Doom, it reshaped the entire MCU we've been watching. That's why the X-Men are missing. That's why Spider-Man enters the story so late. That's why events feel strangely convenient for the Avengers. Every coincidence is a result of Kang's sacred timeline. Engineering the multiverse wasn't always like this in the original Marvel Universe. Everyone existed together, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, the Avengers. There was no need for these awkward rights reacquisitions in the story world because they were always there, and that original universe. Kang silenced it, literally removed it from existence. Which brings us to Secret Wars. The purpose of Secret Wars isn't just to tell a big multiversal battle story, it's to restore that original Marvel universe. It's Marvel's in-story explanation for why, after years of scattered franchises, we're suddenly going to have mutants, Spidey the Fantastic Four, and the Avengers all coexisting in one universe again. And guess who's going to be at the center of that war? Yeah, Doom, but not just any Doom. Our Doom, the Doom who lived as Tony Stark. The Doom who's already been loved by billions of fans. That's the genius of this twist. Marvel isn't introducing a new villain for us to meet in 2 movies before Secret Wars. They're revealing that the villain has been here since day one. It's the long game of all long games. Now let's zoom in on something people forget in the Loki series. He Who Remains explains how he won the multiversal war. He didn't just fight the other Kangs. He ended every other timeline, pruning the branches until only his sacred timeline remained. What he didn't tell us is how many other versions of Victor Von Doom he wiped out in that process. Imagine this in timeline after timeline. Doom rises sometimes. He's a conqueror, sometimes a savior, sometimes both, but no matter what, he becomes powerful enough to threaten Kang's rule. So when Kang finally wins, he doesn't just remove Doom. He makes an example out of him. He rewrites him into the very thing Doom hates most upon, and this is where things get deliciously ironic. Kang thinks he's won. He thinks he's tamed Doom forever, but in reality, he's created the most dangerous version of Doom imaginable, because now Doom has something he's never had before. The lived experience of being a hero. He's seen what selflessness looks like. He's felt the bond of friendship, the weight of responsibility, the pain of sacrifice. Now combine that with Doom's natural ambition, intellect, and ruthlessness, and you've got a man who can play both sides flawlessly. And if you think I'm exaggerating, remember this: when Tony Stark solved time travel in Endgame. It wasn't just genius billionaire inventor Tony doing it. It was Doom's mind disguised under Tony's personality, solving one of the most complex problems in existence in a single night. This explains one of the biggest head-scratchers in the MCU. It took Tony years to build and perfect his suits. Years of trial and error, iteration after iteration, but time travel, just a quick. I'll run some tests and boom. Done. That's not normal. Stark behavior, that's Doom-level expertise bleeding through. And here's another thing. Remember how in Endgame, Tony seemed strangely comfortable bending the rules of the time heist? He was the one cautioning everyone about paradoxes, but also the one who immediately saw loopholes and exploited them. That's not hesitation. That's confidence born from a deep subconscious understanding of temporal mechanics. In other words, Doom. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the real Tony Stark. If our Tony was actually doomed, then where's the original? The most likely scenario is tragic. The real Tony Stark died before birth. Maybe an accident, maybe a deliberate act by Kang to ensure the swap was clean. Howard and Maria, unaware of the bigger picture, quietly adopted a child to fill the role that child just happened to be. Victor Von Doom plucked from his dying timeline. Howard's line in Iron Man 2. My greatest creation is you takes on a whole new meaning. He's not talking about DNA. He's talking about shaping this boy into the man the world would know as Tony Stark. And here's the heartbreaking part. Maria and Howard didn't know the truth. They weren't part of Kang's scheme to them. This was their son. They raised him with love, pride, and expectation, and in many ways, Doom became a better man because of them. But when the truth comes out, all of that gets poisoned. Every smile, every memory, every victory suddenly recontextualized as part of Kang's manipulation. That's why Doom's revenge won't just be against Kang. It'll be against the entire structure of the sacred timeline, because from his perspective, everyone in it played a part in his imprisonment, even if they didn't know it. And now let's think about how this plays out in Secret Wars. Doom enters not as a brand new threat, but as a returning hero, someone the Avengers trust implicitly. They'll follow his lead into the chaos of the multiversal war, never suspecting his true intentions, and just when they need him most, Doom flips the board. That's when the evil Avengers are born. This isn't just mind control villainy. This is ideological conversion. Doom will convince the heroes that the sacred timeline is a lie, that their entire existence has been shaped by one tyrant's control, and for some of them, the truth will be enough to switch sides willingly. Imagine Sam Wilson's Captain America learning that in another universe, Steve never gave up the shield, or Thor discovering that in the original timeline, Asgard's fate was completely different, or Wanda learning that her children's existence was stolen from her on purpose. You think these heroes will stay loyal to Kang's vision? After that, Doom doesn't need to conquer them, he just needs to show them the truth. And once he does, the Avengers, as we know them, are gone now. Here's where I think Marvel's being extra sneaky. RDJ's return as Doom isn't just fan service, it's the perfect way to bridge the old MCU with the new post-reboot MCU. When the dust settles after Secret Wars, we'll have a restored Marvel Universe mutants, Spidey, Fantastic Four, everyone together, but we won't have the same Tony Stark. The real Tony will finally exist in this restored world. New actor, new personality, no baggage, and RDJ's Doom. He either escapes to rule his own corner of the multiverse or he dies, knowing he finally reclaimed his true self. Either way, it closes the book on RDJ's role while passing the torch. And honestly, it's brilliant. Because Marvel isn't erasing Tony Stark from history, they're reframing him. They're saying that man you loved, he was always doomed, and that's why he was so compelling. It's a twist that makes the rewatch value of the entire MCU skyrocket. Every scene, every line, every choice gets new meaning. You'll start seeing the Doom in Tony, the arrogance, the precision, the willingness to break rules for the greater good. It was always there. We just didn't know what we were looking at. And when that mask finally comes off, we'll realize Marvel's been building to this moment for 2 decades. So picture the moment the battle's raging in Secret Wars, heroes from across the multiverse, villains forced into uneasy alliances, entire realities, crashing into each other amid all the chaos. The Avengers look to their leader, Tony Stark, for the plan. Except it's not Tony Stark, it's Victor Von Doom. And he's been waiting for this exact scenario for decades. Here's the genius of Doom's approach. He doesn't reveal the truth right away. That's not how you win a war like this. He keeps the mask on just long enough for everyone to follow him willingly. He lets the trust build until the moment when it's too late for them to turn back. And then he detonates the truth like a bomb. He tells them everything, that the sacred timeline is a lie, that he who remains designed their lives down to the smallest detail, that their victories, their losses, even their families were dictated by a single man's will. And then he drops the final twist. The man they thought was Tony Stark, their friend, their brother in arms, was never Tony Stark at all. Now you might think that would turn everyone against him instantly. But here's the thing about Doom. He's not just a genius in science and magic, he's a master manipulator. In the way he frames it, he's the victim. He was stolen from his timeline. His kingdom erased his memories. Rewritten, forced to live a life for the sake of another man's control. And now he's offering them the chance to break free from that control forever. You think Wanda's not going to listen? You think Strange, a man who's bent rules to protect reality before, won't consider it? You think characters like Loki or Deadpool, who thrive on chaos, won't jump at the opportunity? Suddenly, Doom's not leading the Avengers anymore. He's leading something else entirely. A coalition of heroes and villains, united not by morality, but by the shared goal of destroying Kang's timeline. And here's where it gets even scarier in most universes. Doom's arrogance is his weakness. He always thinks he can control everything, and eventually it bites him. But in this version, Doom has learned humility from his years as Tony Stark. He's seen what happens when you underestimate your opponent. That's why this Doom won't make the same mistakes. He won't just attack Kang head-on. He'll dismantle the very foundation of the sacred timeline. That means destabilizing universes, breaking the barriers between realities, and unleashing threats. Even Kang can't contain if you think about it. This is exactly what the Beyonder does in the comics during Secret Wars, gathers the most powerful beings in the multiverse and throws them into one arena. Only here the Beyonder's role is replaced by Doom, and instead of doing it for curiosity or sport, Doom's doing it for revenge. And the scary part, Doom's revenge just happens to align perfectly with Marvel Studios' real-world plan, because when the dust settles, the sacred timeline will be gone, and from its ruins, Marvel will rebuild the original universe, the one where X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and the Avengers have always coexisted. That's the soft reboot. No messy multiverse logic to explain why mutants suddenly appear, no awkward variant excuses for recasting characters. It'll simply be a restored universe where everything we've always wanted is canon. But here's the emotional hook, the cost of that reboot. Because for this new universe to exist, the old one has to die. That means the heroes we followed for over a decade, the ones we've cheered for, cried for, and quoted endlessly, will cease to exist. Not just dead, erase their entire history, replaced by a version that fits the restored universe. And Doom will be the one holding the detonator. Now here's where it gets tricky for the audience. We're supposed to hate Doom for this. He's erasing the MCU we know and love, but the way the story will be told, part of us will agree with him. Because once we see how Kang has manipulated everything, it'll be hard to root for keeping the sacred timeline intact. Marvel's betting on that moral tension. They want us walking out of the theater arguing, was Doom, right? Did he actually save the multiverse by destroying the MCU? We knew that's the kind of discussion that keeps a movie alive for years. Now let's dig into some of the specific moves Doom might make during Secret Wars first. The recruitment. Doom's not going to just take any hero who's willing. He'll target the ones with the most personal reasons to hate Kang's timeline. Wanda Maximoff, whose children were never real in this universe because of Kang's pruning. Peter Parker, who in the sacred timeline lost Aunt May, had his identity erased and was left completely alone. Thor, who lost Asgard, his people and his family in events that might never have happened in the original universe. Deadpool, who literally exists outside Kang's control and will gleefully burn the whole thing down. Each of these characters becomes a key piece in Doom's army, and each has their own reason for following him. Then there's the manipulation of the battlefield. Doom won't just fight Kang's forces, he'll weaponize the multiverse itself. We'll see collapsing realities, versions of characters turning on each other, universes bleeding into one another. He'll create so much chaos that Kang can't possibly control it all. And this is where Marvel can bring in literally any version of any character. They want Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, in Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider. Why not? It's all fair game in the multiverse collapse. But here's the twist within the twist. Doom's not doing this just to win the war. He's doing it to find himself. Because even though he knows now that he's Victor Von Doom, he's missing decades of his real memories. The multiverse isn't just a battlefield, it's a puzzle. He's trying to solve every alternate Doom he encounters is a piece of that puzzle, and when he finally reassembles the whole picture, that's when he makes his in-game move. See, most people think Doom's ultimate goal will be to kill Kang and take his place as ruler of the multiverse. And sure, that's tempting for Doom, but the Doom who's lived as Tony Stark, he's learned that ruling isn't enough. What he really wants is control over how the story ends. So when he finally beats Kang, I think he won't just sit on the throne. He'll reset the multiverse entirely, wipe out the sacred timeline, and rebuild the universe the way it was before. Kang tampered with it, and in that moment the MCU gets its reboot. We'll see glimpses of the new universe, forming mutants, walking openly. The Fantastic Four already established Spider-Man, swinging alongside the Avengers. It'll feel like the comics finally brought to life in full, but here's the gut punch. Doom won't exist in that restored universe. Not this Doom anyway, because the man we've known as Tony Stark will be erased along with the sacred timeline. The new universe will have the real Tony Stark with no memories of being doomed. RDJ's version will vanish, leaving the audience with the bittersweet realization that the character they followed for 20 years is gone forever. That's how Marvel gives us closure on RDJ's run, while passing the torch. And it's not just a creative decision, it's poetic. The man who spent his whole life under someone else's identity finally gets to decide the ending, even if it means erasing himself to do it now. Imagine how that plays in the theater. The audience is cheering as Doom defeats Kang. The universes merge and the restored Marvel universe takes shape. And then they realize RDJ's not in it. Silence because love him or hate him. Doom's been the heartbeat of this story from the beginning, and now he's gone. That's how you make an ending that sticks. And here's the kicker. Even in erasure, Doom wins. Because his plan wasn't just revenge on Kang, it was about proving that he could shape the multiverse more perfectly than anyone else. And in the end, that's exactly what he does. Marvel gets its fresh start, we get our dream universe, and Doom gets the last laugh. So the sacred timeline is gone in its place. The new universe, called it Marvel Prime, is taking shape at first. It's like watching a dream sequence. The multiverse isn't just collapsing, it's merging. You see flashes of worlds we know, worlds we've only heard of, and worlds straight from the comics. Xavier's school for gifted youngsters standing proudly in Westchester, the Baxter Building gleaming in New York skyline Wakanda, and Latveria sharing a tense diplomatic handshake, mutants and Avengers in the same headline. Spider-Man swinging past the Daily Bugle with the actual J. Jonah Jameson shouting from the window. It's like the Marvel universe we've always known in the comics is finally real, and that's the point. This is Marvel Studios' way of fixing the pieces that never fit together before. They can recast, rewrite, or retcon anything they want in the new universe without multiverse excuses. To the characters in this reality, this is the way it's always been. But here's the bittersweet truth. To get this universe, we lost the one we knew. The camera doesn't just show the birth of Marvel Prime, it also shows the erasure of the MCU timeline. And Marvel will make us feel that loss, you'll see. Steve Rogers vanishing mid-sentence, his world blinking away. Wanda holding her children as they fade from her arms. Peter Parker standing on a rooftop watching the skyline disappear around him. Sam Wilson reaching for his Captain America shield before both vanish. This is in-game level emotion, but instead of cheering victory, we're grieving an entire reality. And in the middle of it all, Doom stands alone. The battlefield is empty now. Kang's fortress is gone. The sky is breaking apart, the very concept of space and time coming undone. He's holding the final fragment of the multiverse in his hand, a device, a spell, or maybe something stranger, something only Doom understands. And here's where the emotional core of the story lands. He could keep himself alive in Marvel Prime. He could write himself in as the ruler of Latveria, the undisputed genius of the new world. He could win in every sense, but he doesn't, because he knows the man who lived as Tony Stark can't exist in this reality. He's too dangerous, too much of an anomaly, and maybe, just maybe, a part of him finally understands that his time has passed. So Doom rewrites the new universe without himself in it. The last thing we see of RDJ's Doom is him watching from a white void as Marvel Prime solidifies. And in the crowd of heroes, he spots the real Tony Stark, a younger man, untouched by Kang's manipulation, smiling like none of this ever happened. Doom smirks, and then he's gone. When the dust settles, the movie shifts tone completely. We're in the restored Marvel universe now. This is where Marvel will spend 15 to 20 minutes showing us what's different. The Avengers are a public global force with a roster that includes mutants and cosmic heroes. The Fantastic Four are already legends, maybe even older seasoned heroes. Mutants aren't hidden. They're part of the political and cultural landscape. Villains like Magneto, Dr. Octopus, and even Galactus are known names. Deadpool is still Deadpool, because of course he is. This is Marvel letting the audience breathe after the chaos, giving us the same feeling we had at the end of the Avengers, 2012, but on a cosmic scale. And just when we think the movie's done, the real ending hits because someone remembers. Not everyone, just one character. Maybe it's Deadpool, maybe it's Loki, maybe it's someone completely unexpected, like Scarlet Witch. But this character knows the truth. This universe isn't the original, and they remember Doom. That's the thread Marvel can pull on for years, because even if the rest of the Marvel Prime universe sees Doom as a myth, someone out there knows he was real, and that means the door is open for his return. And that's how Marvel would use Doom, not just to end the multiverse saga, but to reset the MCU into its next era, the Marvel Prime saga. It's bold, it's risky, and it makes every future movie feel fresh without abandoning everything that came before. And for Robert Downey Jr., it's the perfect swan song. A return that's not just fan service, but the heart of the story. He'd get to play Tony Stark, Victor Von Doom, and a completely new kind of anti-hero all in one performance. And when he leaves, it's not with a whimper, but with a universe-shaping bang. And that's the thing about Doom. Even in death, even in erasure, he wins.